In this video, I am going to go over the activity from March 24th. This activity, you guys were solving equations. It was a variety of equations here, from regular ones to ones where they were exponential to logs and so forth. So for the first one in A, this one here, you had to go ahead and move these on over. So subtract 4x minus the 12 over to that other side. When you go ahead and do that, you can factor by grouping. And when you factor by grouping, you'll get your two quantities, and then you can go ahead. This here is a difference of squares. So when you go ahead and factor that, and then when you set each of those quantities equal to 0, you get your solutions. When we go over to B, this example here is when you go ahead and you do the same exact thing, moving that 5x squared over, so minus 5x squared, and then the plus 1 over to the other side. You want to make sure that you get it into standard form. Once you get it into standard form, you're going to realize that you cannot factor it. It is not going to work if you group this. You cannot factor it. There's no way to get those two sets of parentheses to be exactly the same. So since you cannot factor by grouping, you're going to have to do either long division or synthetic. So here I went ahead and I graphed it on my calculator, and I got one of the solutions to be x equals -1. When I did that, I went ahead and did synthetic division. So then from here, you can do synthetic division. Here 0 is your remainder. It should be your remainder since you know that x equals -1 is a 0. And then you have here your what you have left over. So then I look at it and I'm thinking, what multiplies to get +1 but adds to get -6? Absolutely nothing. So you're going to have to do that quadratic formula. Remember, quadratic formula is always exact, and then you're going to get your lovely answer over here. Make sure it's completely simplified. Then we have over here C. This is another example where you go ahead and you can't factor by grouping. So you do synthetic division. When you do synthetic division, you come back over here and you're like, oh, okay, I cannot factor this either. So I'm going to have to do the quadratic formula. When you get to the quadratic formula, you are going to see that you're going to get a -16. Remember, when you have a square root of a negative number, that's always going to be an I. So over here, the square root of -16 becomes 4i. So then you get your final solution. And then we'll go back all the way up to here. Looks like we're missing a D. All right, so then over here in this next one, this is an exponential, so you're going to go ahead and divide both sides by 4. When you go ahead and divide both sides by 4, you're able to get that exponential, the base, all by itself. That is your goal. You're not going to do 4 times 7. You have to get rid of the 4. The 7 is the base. Then from here, I'm going to rewrite this as a log. Remember, the base is always the base. So the base is always the base. So log base 7 of 2 equals x minus 2. And then you're going to do the change of base. So over here, the change of base. So when you do the change of base, then you're going to add 2 over, and then you put that in your calculator, and you get approximately 2.36. Then over here in this one, you're not able to solve for x because your missing variable is inside of the log. So when it's inside of the log, that's when you know you have to turn it into an exponential. So if you remember in my nice little loop I did before, so then we're going to have a 4 to the power of 2 equals x plus 3, and then you go ahead and solve. So that is it for Tuesday, March 24th's lesson. This was just on solving equations. Thanks for listening.